But the second piece of that is really understanding your purpose. And this is the hardest thing, I think, for entrepreneurs, because your purpose is not making money. That is not what differentiates you. What is your purpose in this world? Why does your business exist beyond making money? And then you have to be able to focus each one of your employees to be able to make decisions within that why, within that purpose. But the second piece of that is really understanding your purpose. And this is the hardest thing, I think, for entrepreneurs, because your purpose is not making money. That is not what differentiates you. What is your purpose in this world? Why does your business exist beyond making money? And then you have to be able to focus each one of your employees to be able to make decisions within that why, within that purpose.
And it is a very tough thing to do, to over communicate all of that, your documentation, your purpose statements, and making sure that your people understand it. Now, here comes the hard part. When people do make mistakes and they do cost you money, how do you react to that? What is the best reaction of a business owner to an employee or someone in grassroots, perhaps, who knew the parameters? You made sure this person went through the academy.
Yeah.
They learned the parameters. They've learned how to do it. And they made a mistake that could be attributed as a fatal mistake. You lost a client, you lost some money there. You're definitely not happy with that. How should we react?
That's a great question. It's a tough question, right? Because I think the answer is it depends. What I can tell you is this: there are correctable mistakes and there are uncorrectable mistakes, right? So within law enforcement, one of the non-correctable mistakes is your ethics and your truthfulness, right? If you are not truthful, if you are not trustworthy, if you are not ethical, you cannot be in this business, right? If you make mistakes because of that, then you cannot continue. That is not something that you can fix in somebody, at least in the short term.
Yeah.
People are either one way or the other, right? So those are things that can't be fixed. On the flip side, an error in judgment when the intention was good and the intention was well placed can be fixed, right? We can teach better judgment. We can't teach integrity, right? So in law enforcement, there's a significant line that separates, right? You make a mistake and you drive too fast and you wreck one of your vehicles, whatever. That could be a non-correctable mistake if it's just something that you do all the time and you're just not learning. Or it can be, you just got distracted and that can be corrected, right? You lie on the stand, you lie in a report, you do something that shows a lack of integrity, that's a done deal. You're done, yeah. Right? And within so you have to decide for yourself where that line is. I can't tell you where that line is. That line is going to be different for everybody in terms of what can be fixed and what can't be fixed. But what I like to focus on is intent. And this is something that I've learned from law enforcement. A lot of what we do has to do with intent, right? Sometimes you can make an error that's so egregious that intent doesn't matter, right? That you should have known better. And that is something that maybe you can't come back from. We just had a case here in Colorado where a truck driver driving, what was deemed to be recklessly ended up causing 4 fatalities in a pileup on a highway. And, there's no indication now. I'm not intimately familiar with this case. I'm not involved with this case at all or anything like that. But in just what I've read, there's no indication that this person was criminal in that they intended to hurt anybody. But their mistake was so egregious and they should have known better based on what was shown in court and stuff. He just got sentenced to over 100 years in prison. 100 years in prison for an accident that caused, a lot of death and pain for people. And so, the line is different everywhere, but I do like to, especially in the business sense, I do like to focus in on intent, right? What were you trying to do? Did you make a mistake that cost me money, but you were trying to do the right thing? You were trying to satisfy the customer. You were trying to, do things correctly. To me, those are more correctable than, you falsified your expense report, or you tried to cheat to get a customer, or you did something that is, not in our nature against the competitor to try and make them look bad. So that those are things that, are different. So I think the answer is it's different for everybody, but focus on intent.
So we're talking about complacency in a company, in a team, and how we're going to kind of prevent that. The question now in your book is entitled Be Vigilant. Are there steps to, when you mentioned the signs of being complacent earlier, which has a lot to do with hubris, success, being overconfident, are there steps now for us to apply being vigilant so that we can overcome these early detected signs of complacency as young and as early as they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just take one step back. So let me just officially, we've talked about it. Let me just officially define complacency. So complacency is an unawareness of potential or real or, future threats that is born out of overconfidence, self-satisfaction, and smugness, right? That is complacency. The opposite of complacency is not paranoia. So you shouldn't get scared that, so what do I have to do? Like walk around looking over my shoulder all the time and being scared. And that's not the opposite of complacency. Like you mentioned, and like the title of the book, the opposite of complacency is vigilance. And the difference is this, and this gets to what you're asking. The difference between paranoia and vigilance is that paranoia is based in fear, whereas vigilance is based in awareness. And so everything that I talk about in the book at a root level comes down to how do we build more awareness and intentionality into our lives, into our business, in terms of what we're doing. Some of the things that you can do right away to help you do that is, number one, focus on threat awareness. You need to understand where all the threats can come from. I talk in the book about how hard it is for, my wife and children or anybody who has somebody in law enforcement to go out to eat, because anybody in law enforcement or military is the same way. We are very aware of our surroundings, and we don't want to sit somewhere where we're vulnerable. We want to be able to have an eye out on where all the dangers could be coming from, not because we're paranoid, but just so that we can see it. You have to build that awareness within your organization, within your own life. You have to understand that if you think that you know who your top 2, top 3 competitors are, and you feel comfortable with that, you might be missing something. Where could those threats be coming from? What other industries, competitors, geographies, government, what threats are going to come from government regulation, environment, economy, worldwide pandemics? These are things that we have to be thinking about. I don't know. Have you ever seen, I don't know that much, you guys, if you've seen the cartoon, the Roadrunner, there's Wile E. Coyote, right? So yeah. I talk about don't let yourself get into the Roadrunner effect where you are so focused on one threat. Wile E. Coyote is so focused on one threat, the Roadrunner, that threat is never where his danger comes from. His danger always comes from somewhere else, right? That he doesn't see coming. And that's our problem. Sometimes, if we're Coke, we get so focused on Pepsi, right? If we're Apple or if we're Microsoft, we get so focused on Apple, right? You have to be able to, build your threat awareness and institutionalize it. So have people who have responsibility for looking out for where could those next threats be coming from, right? If we're in the solar industry here in the United States, did you see that Tesla is going to be your biggest competitor, or are you just focused on other solar companies, right? So that's one thing. Another thing that you can do right away to help you build in this increased awareness, especially if you're experiencing success, is this idea of debriefing. We do debriefs religiously in law enforcement, in military, in all sorts of things. And the trick is this: a lot of companies will, and a lot of people will say, yeah, well, we do debriefs all the time. But the reality is they do debriefs when things go wrong. When things have gone wrong, they're looking for who to blame and how to make sure that doesn't happen again. But when things go right, how often do you debrief projects, events, situations that go right? The reality is that a lot of times things go right, but they could have gone righter. There are little micro failures in that macro success that you ignore because of the success. By debriefing successes, by making sure everybody has a say, by making sure everybody knows that we're going to debrief afterwards, people remain aware and people start picking up on those little micro failures so that they don't become macro failures, which is a lot of what complacency is about. A third thing that you can do right away is focus on your metrics. What are you measuring? Are you measuring the right things, right? Are you measuring things that are what would be called vanity metrics, things that make you feel good? Or are you actually measuring the things that lead to success and lead to you understanding when problems are coming? A lot of times we have either too many metrics or we're not measuring the right things. And if you can measure the right things, not only does it keep people aware of what's going on, it also gets back to what we're talking about with incentivizing people the right way and making sure that they understand what they should be doing, right? By making sure that we're measuring the right things, that makes people think about what should I be doing, because this is what we're measuring. This is what's important.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. So I love that these are just so practical. These are metrics. These are steps that a lot of companies can do actually to be able to prevent complacency from creeping in. I want to know that as CEO or as the owner of the business, and complacency does creep in usually. So I was telling you earlier in the pre-show that I'm at a place right now where I keep on delegating my authority and allowing my generals in the company to be the one to decide. In short, I practiced what we were talking about earlier, giving them the autonomy of using their own judgment and discretion to decide what to do in a certain situation. Now I'm at a position where now more than ever, I have a lot less in my plate. Yeah. And it frees me up. And I could use this time to just do whatever the heck I want as CEO for my personal life. How do I, or all the business owners who are tuned in actually, keep at the edge of our seats, not in paranoia, but in vigilance, in our own lives, in our own habits? Yeah. What's the mindset that we have to have? And what are some of the key things that we got to do to make sure that Len's not going to tell us that we became. So yeah, I love this. I love this question. I love this question because I think what you're getting at, and I think what I hear from you is, when I hear about where you might be becoming complacent, I don't think about you becoming complacent in terms of the business that you have, that business that you have people running. You're in danger of becoming complacent in life, right? And when you talk about what the mindset is, the mindset that I tell people is, and this is why this is so important. The end goal is not success. The end goal is keeping it, right? So becoming successful is not the pinnacle. It is the start. How do you keep that success in business and in life, right? So you're at this position now where you have a successful business and you have taught people and you've given people the right skills and the right autonomy to be able to run that successfully. So now what's your purpose, right? So, how do you remain useful to your family, to your friends, to whatever relationships you have, right? How do you push beyond? How do you look at where's that next step, right? The goal is not success. Keeping it is. And success is not money. Success is happiness. Success is productivity. Success is purpose, right? And so, you said, after 10, 11 years, I think you said you finally came up with a purpose for your business, right? You have to start spending a little bit of that time thinking about what is your personal purpose, right? What is your purpose in life?
Because what entrepreneurs have a tendency to do is define themselves as their business, but you are not your business, right? That is not your legacy.
Right.
Your legacy goes beyond that. And that's what you have to figure out is, what is my legacy? Do I want to create another business? Do I want to create ancillary businesses that come out of this? Do I want to be a philanthropic person? Do I want to, be, the best father or the best husband or the best partner or whatever I can be, right? What is your purpose that goes beyond that business? Because it sounds like you've done a great job to set that business up for success. And now it's like, what's that next stage for you? So this applies to personal life as much as it does to anything. We have a tendency as entrepreneurs also to further our business at the detriment of our personal relationships. Yeah. Our personal relationships become second seat to what we're doing. And so, here's a great opportunity to evaluate that for yourself. Where do you stand in there? Like, how do you feel about that? What do you want to do about that? So, the way to not be complacent is to continue to ask why. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why am I moving forward? What am I moving forward towards? Right? And where could the threats come from? If you do that in your personal life and your business life, you'll always continue forward.
That's something I should think of. And by the way, it's not really because of me. I can't take the credit for it. It's because of the great people working alongside with me. Yeah, definitely. I have to give the credit to them.
Oh, hey, and since you're here, can you do me a favor? Can you hit on the subscribe button and hit the bell button and select all notifications so that whenever we have a new video, you're going to be the first one to know. Until then, keep leading. Your goal is still the same. That basketball player's goal is still to get that ball in the hoop, right? Football player's goal is still to go to the end zone or the goal, depending on what football is yours. The reality is, though, that the way that you get there, so you can still be predictable in terms of what your brand is about. Your brand is still about scoring a three-pointer or a hoop or whatever you want to do, right? But how you get there can dictate how successful you are based on how predictable you are. In business, if we're doing the same things all the time, the same way, and it's all the same, how hard is it for our competition to be able to meet us?